Thank you, Ini. Now, debates in the U.S. are still on about Kevin Walsh's stand on interest rates. He took a hawkish stance as he held his first meeting on Wednesday, keeping interest rates unchanged. We see that quarterly meeting, and that's his first. So we have economist and research fellow Jeffrey Degner of the American Institute for Economic Research saying that the attention now is turning to inflation signals in the U.S. economy. Let's take a listen.
There are two competing signals in the American economy right now. One is the well-spoken of inflation that is well above the Federal Reserve's target, hovering around 4% or more, and as high as 5% in areas like apparel, for example. Now, the new chair, Mr. Walsh, made it clear that it's not their job to stamp out individual or relative price changes and bring those back down. What they want to do is prevent that inflation from seeping through the rest of the economy. So the inflation signal remains concerningly high. At the same time, job numbers remain relatively strong, are softening a little bit, but not enough to signal a cut in rates.
And definitely, let's see how that impacted stock trading in the U.S. And we have Maria Bird with the details.
The U.S. stock market responded positively to the peace deal between the U.S. and Iran, as the U.S. stock market saw an upward tick in the Dow Jones at 0.14%. The S&P 500 went all the way up to 1.08%, and the heavy-tech NASDAQ led the day at 1.91%. Investors seem to have some positive insight and some potential hope that the U.S. marketplace will show positive signs, as oil prices have already started to decrease and gas prices in the United States have started to show a downward tick as well, as many investors are hopeful that this is a positive sign for the U.S. economy moving forward.
Thank you, Maria. Now, planned talks between the United States and Iran in Switzerland are being called off, dealing a blow to efforts to build on a recent ceasefire between the two countries. We see the meeting was expected to focus on Iran's nuclear program, sanctions relief, and steps to maintain the fragile truce. Reports say U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance withdrew from the talks, while Iran wanted stronger assurances from Washington before moving forward. The cancellation has renewed uncertainty over the future of the ceasefire and raised concerns about possible disruptions to global oil markets, which has rallied on hopes of easing tensions in the Middle East. Now, India is slowly resuming crude oil imports from the Middle East as shipping through the Strait of Hormuz stabilizes after recent disruptions. The reopening of the key route is easing earlier supply concerns that had pushed India to diversify its oil sources. Refiners are expected to cautiously rebuild purchases from Gulf suppliers, though the shift will be gradual. And we get to the UK, where Andy Burnham has won the Makerfield by-election in Northern England in a result seen as a setback for Prime Minister Keir Starmer's leadership. Burnham secured nearly 55% of the vote, defeating Reform UK by a wide margin. The outcome comes amid growing scrutiny of Labour's national leadership following recent political challenges. Burnham's return to Parliament is likely to fuel speculation about a possible future leadership contest within the party. Now, still in the UK, retail sales have bounced back, rising 1.3% in May after a decline in the previous month, according to official data. The increase was driven by stronger online spending and higher purchases of clothing and seasonal goods, supported by warmer weather and promotional activity. Despite the rebound, analysts warn the recovery remains fragile, with households still under pressure from high living costs and weaker consumer confidence. And I will see in the U.S., the state has imposed visa restrictions on some leaders from Ethiopia's Tigray region over alleged actions linked to ongoing instability. And the U.S. State Department says the move targets individuals it accuses of undermining peace efforts in the region. Washington says it remains committed to a peaceful resolution of Ethiopia's conflict while maintaining pressure where necessary. Officials stress the restrictions are aimed at specific individuals, not the wider population. Let's see how that goes on. Now we'll move on finally to India, where the stocks are falling after Accenture lowered its full-year revenue growth forecast between 3% and 4%, citing weaker client spending and delayed contracts. The update triggered broad selling across the sector, pushing its shares lower in trading. All major IT stocks were in the red as investors reacted to softer global demand signals. And those are your global news from the global news space. I'm Will Ibang.